Right, everyone, welcome to Introduction to Mindfulness. I'll just say a quick few words for those who might be joining us offline. I'll introduce myself. I've been a member of TNL for several years, and I'm currently working on an FPMT teacher's certification. There, I've completed courses on minds and mental factors with Venerable George Churanoff and on mindfulness with Venerable Sangye Kadro. So I'll reference quotations from various authorities and provide explanation where I can. TNL has many excellent resources in terms of teachers. Any of the ordained faculty or lay teachers have great experience and in-depth knowledge, and I encourage you to consult with them if you have any questions. So this course is designed to introduce you to the definitions, practices, and techniques of mindfulness. You'll learn to apply mindfulness to enhance mental focus by calming physical tensions and mental agitations. We'll start that right at the top. You'll better notice your habitual thinking and change it through mindfulness, and you'll also learn to nurture positive, wholesome inner qualities with mindfulness practice. This course is particularly suited for those who are new to mindfulness and would like to learn simple ways of applying mindfulness in their daily lives. This course is intended to serve both Buddhists and non-Buddhists, but it's based on Buddhist concepts and perspectives. I'll keep the presentation general in that regard, where possible, in order to have a broad interest and applicability. Beginning meditators are the target audience, but the nature of this material is going to require some technical explanation. We're actually going to delve in a little bit, beginning with meditative posture and just basic technique, but then looking at what is actually going on in our minds with the mind, the mental factors, and so on. I'll explain all of those terms in a little bit. So this is going to help us understand mindfulness and its context. So as I said earlier, you're encouraged to comment and ask questions to help clarify your understanding. Now to begin, and this is something that we do pretty typically in a Buddhist teaching or a Buddhist meditation session, we begin with a motivation. So in the motivation, it's where we generate the positive energy and a specific goal for our session, whether it's this instruction or a meditation session. That's because we need the energy, resolve, and a positive tone for a successful meditation. So a specific goal for our meditation session prevents us from getting sidetracked or zoning out. How you can do that, whether you're a Buddhist or not, is you can call up an altruistic motivation by imagining how this meditation session might change you positively, making you better able to help yourself and others. If it helps, bring an image to mind of the others or your future self even, who might benefit from your practice. We say we should have compassion for all sentient beings. Well, that includes you. So we'll begin with this motivation, and we can rest assured that if we have a good motivation and even get tired or bored or distracted during this class, that starting with a good motivation means that the whole activity will have a powerful and positive outcome. So in this motivation, we try as best we can. This is kind of a mental exercise. We try as best we can to generate these four vast positive attitudes: benevolence, compassion, sympathetic joy in others' happiness and virtue, and impartiality in engaging with others. These are called the four immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment to friends and hatred for enemies. All right, well, let's begin now. So, what will we do? We're going to sit, relax the body, and calm the mind with Buddhist meditation. What I may do, Jean, and oh, welcome, Sandy, as well. Maybe I'll have you just mute your microphones if that's okay. And then I'll just go on. And if you've got questions, just raise your hand, just signal me, or turn off your microphone and just jump in. That's great. Good to see you again, Sandy. So, what will we do today? Well, we're going to sit, relax our bodies, and calm our minds with Buddhist meditation. Now, how can I say this is Buddhist meditation? Well, it's partly the meditation technique, but it's very well known in other contexts. I'll describe it, and maybe some of you will realize it's pretty familiar. Um, so it's partly the meditation technique that the Buddha described in his teachings and then were later captured in many of the Buddhist sutras. But it's also how we frame it within the practices of motivating and dedicating the meditation. Motivating happens at the beginning and dedicating happens at the end. Now, how we do this is, well, sounds so simple. What we do is we place the attention on a familiar meditation object. An object, well, not an object like a pen, it's actually a mental object. So in our case, it'll be the sensations of the breath, how we perceive them. And then we just keep our attention there with the power of mindfulness. That is the principal topic of this whole series of 4 classes. They'll be every Friday, beginning at 7 p.m. And well, I guess we'll go about maybe 90 minutes or so. We'll have a break as well in the middle somewhere, just so you can rest and relax and disengage for a moment or two. So we keep our attention on a familiar meditation object, the breath, with the power of mindfulness. All that means is just remembering that's what we want to do. When our attention drifts, maybe after just a few seconds, which is totally normal, we simply notice that and gently but firmly bring the attention back to the object, the breath, that is. A second or two, a minute, an hour, days. In a way, it doesn't even matter because it's that whole cycle of placing the attention, even realizing that we can place the attention somewhere on something, onto the breath, keeping it there for as long as we're able, then noticing that we've become distracted and returning the attention back to the breath in a firm but gentle way. It's that whole process that is meditation. It's kind of like if you're doing weight training, it's kind of like a repetition, a rep, lifting weights or, something like that. So it doesn't matter how long you're able to keep your attention on that object, as long as you go through the whole process. And over time, this will train you to keep your attention on the object longer and longer. And you'll see also that your mind will begin to calm, become more attentive and more perceptive. So this is called mindfulness meditation. It's got many other names, stabilizing meditation, placement meditation, calm abiding, or shamatha in Sanskrit. Often, though, in our contemporary culture, mindfulness is commonly defined as a moment to moment, non judgmental awareness of mental events. That's kind of like you're just sort of sitting back and just watching the mental events flow through your consciousness, not judging, not engaging, just kind of observing them as if you were a scientist. Well, that's not the type of mindfulness that we're going to work with here. It's a different terminology, and it's incredibly useful and powerful and really quite helpful in certain contexts. But don't get confused with the mindfulness we're talking about tonight, which means attending continuously for as long as you can to a familiar object without forgetfulness or distraction. Now, why would we even want to do this? Well, it can help us, that is, attentional development, training the attention, increasing our powers of mindfulness. It can help us, this practice of placing our attention on a meditation object, keeping it there until we notice distraction, but then gently but firmly returning it to the meditation object. All of this trains our ability to place our attention on whatever we desire and keep it there in a stable, calm, and relaxed way for as long as we wish. And second, a calm, stable, and attentive mind that can focus where we like is an incredible benefit in understanding the own workings of our mind, developing our personal qualities, changing habits that don't serve us, and engaging positively in our everyday life. So, if we can direct our attention where we want to place it, that means we can fill our mind with whatever we choose. That is positive qualities, for example, something you want to work on for yourself, something you want to, maybe you're already, pretty good at it, but you want to improve some kind of characteristic, personal quality, whatever, by placing our attention on it and then becoming more and more familiar with it, being able to bring it to mind when we like, even under difficult circumstances. That's like a superpower, really. When we're able to calm our mind and keep it stable, we can slow things down a little bit. Now we try and do everything so fast and so quickly. But if we can slow things down and retain a stable mind, we can look at some of those difficult situations that are really triggering for us, or the sensitivities, or the like unserviceable habits that we have when certain situations arise. We can bring those to mind while we're in meditation, when our mind is stable and calm, and then attend to them and look at, well, what are the triggers? What are the circumstances, the causes and conditions that bring up those difficult responses? And when we identify the triggers, then and we can anticipate them and slow down just a little bit, place our attention on what's happening inside rather than what's coming in from the outside, then what we can do is we can perceive that trigger and then intervene. And then instead of the negative, difficult, unhelpful habit that would normally arise, we can short circuit that and begin to train ourselves to replace it with something else. Even if it's just simply to go immobile, at least we're not digging the hole any deeper. So that's really kind of my little blurb on what this course is about and how it might help us and why it's worth your very valuable time to sit in, at least for a little while tonight, and experiment with meditation. Now, I thought I would just stop for a second. Well, first of all, to greet Rachel. Hello, Rachel. Welcome to this class. I encourage the other students. Many of us are acquainted and we're just so it feels like friends here. So I encourage the other students to just jump in and ask questions if you have any comments or any kind of observations. You're welcome to do that as well. So I thought I'd just stop here for a second and ask if anyone had any questions, comments, or maybe just let me know if you've got some expectations or some, topics you're interested in. Okay. Well, that gives me a blank canvas. I thought what I might do is, Rachel, would you mind just saying like a sentence or two? You don't have to say anything about yourself if you don't want to, but just what your meditative experience is, whether you're familiar with Tibetan Buddhism and so on. Please go ahead.
I've been doing mindful meditation um, through my yoga studio uh, for 2 years. And I've been doing the morning and the evening through the temple for maybe 2 or 3 months now.
Yeah, that's excellent. And so, is that TNL, Thupten Norbuling?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And who are some of the teachers or meditation instructors that you like to work with?
Mostly Venerable Katie Cole. I really enjoy her. And when Robina,
Yeah.
uh, um, she seems a little harsh, but loving. Um, I like the Jeff Highfill, maybe his like I don't
Uh-huh.
know. He's
Yeah.
good, and there's another venerable, and I like what he says, but the audio's so terrible. I've just kind of
Mm.
given up
Okay.
on doing on listening to him in the morning.
Right.
So I'm very new to Buddhism. I've read the Dharmapada, Shantideva.
Oh, Shantideva.
Yeah, a few things. So I'm trying to learn. I guess
Hmm.
the most confusing thing for me on meditation is how to meditate on nothing or emptiness, and
Oh,
what that is. Or I think like when I'm thinking about breath or counting breaths, or I
yeah.
breathe in or out, or a certain topic, if I'm given something to do, I can. But when it's just kind of like this free for all, I'm like, what am I supposed to be thinking about? And typically eclairs and hamburgers and things kind of float around in my head. But I'm just not sure where I'm supposed to be,
I
at
see. I see.
times.
I see. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Rachel. I think that those are excellent comments. So let's see. You're finding it difficult to meditate on emptiness, and instead visions of eclairs and hamburgers appear. Well, I think you're completely and totally normal because that happens to me too. So we'll try and sort it out and simplify it a little bit. I won't be giving any sort of advanced teachings on emptiness. This is like a huge, incredibly core Buddhist topic. I will talk a little bit, I think it's the third class, a little bit on kind of a related type of emptiness. It's called, yeah, the conventional nature of the mind, but it's a form of emptiness that we'll look at in the third class. But even that is like very difficult. I mean, we students, we sit with Venerable George Churanoff and he gives his instructions on meditating on the conventional clear light nature of the mind, the Buddha nature of the mind. And it's still pretty difficult, very subtle. It just takes time. So I think you're doing great. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, so unless anyone else has anything else they want to say, um, maybe I'll call on Jean and ask her, Jean, just like a sentence about your meditation kind of experience, what you're looking for.
Stephen, I think it's pretty safe to say I have absolutely no experience meditating. And I think in terms of what I was looking for, it was just I think you sort of addressed it. There are times in my life when I just flip the F out and get furious, and I keep thinking there's a better way to deal with this. There's a better way to approach disagreement with somebody or frustration with something. And so I was sort of thinking that, this year it would be great to try to practice some meditation techniques in the hope that it would help me not go from 0 to 120, but just be like a little bit calmer in my approach to
Yeah.
things.
Okay. Well, I have to let the other students know that I know Jean through yoga class, and wow, you have that problem? You just seem so calm on the surface. So I hope you don't mind me teasing you a little
He's
bit.
being
Jean. You're a great
facetious, you
person.
guys.
It's only just like a little tweaking and tuning here or there. Way less than I need to do. All right, okay, so enough of that.
No,
Let's
I want to chip in.
oh,
Thank you,
please
Rich.
do.
I like to meditate on an empty stomach about breakfast. That's my major meditation. And Jean, yes, that pesky little word slips out unannounced, and I struggle with it like crazy. So thank you guys. It's good to know I'm not alone over here.
Yeah, we've got a lot of pretty regular people here, but what makes it extraordinary is you guys. No, seriously, you guys are, thinking about, how you can improve yourselves. Basically that's the Buddhist program. How can we be a little bit better each day? All right, so let's then dive right into a meditation. And I'll begin by, saying some words about the meditation posture. Many of you might have heard this posture before or have other instructions on the posture. It's really what works for you. And I'm giving this initial posture really for a very basic goal, and that's just to sit with enough comfort to be able to tune out the body and attend to the mind. That's all we're looking for. I'll give you all of these, really, they're suggestions. I'll give you all of these suggestions and you try them out. Your bodies are all different. All our bodies are different. So make adjustments, experiment, try different things. So these 7 points, traditionally, they're called the posture of Vairocana. And we begin from the bottom and work up with the legs and the feet. And typically you'll see Buddhists, our teachers, our lamas, and so on, sitting on the floor. They're sitting cross-legged in a variety of different ways with a cushion for support. Ideally, they say lotus position is the best, but many of us can't and may never be able to attain that. So a comfortable cross-legged seat with a cushion holding up your hips, that's great if you're going to sit on the floor. I really say that you don't have to sit on the floor cross-legged. You can sit in a chair. Or you can even meditate lying down. The only proviso there, of course, is that if you're lying down, it's really easy just to doze off. And that's not the point of this type of meditation. So you do have to be aware when you're lying down. You may have your head propped up a little bit, but when you're lying down, you do have to expend a little bit extra mental energy to stay aware and attentive. If you're sitting in a chair, which is a great meditation posture, particularly for beginners, or if you have difficulty sitting on the floor cross-legged, your feet are flat on the floor or a cushion, your thighs are well supported by the seat, but you're sitting upright with your back away from the seat back. So you're holding the upper half of your body straight up and upright. In either case, whether you're sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor, see if you can adjust your posture using various props and support and just moving around. See if you can adjust your posture to use support so that the hips are higher than the knees if possible. This is generally just less stressful on the joints and a lot more comfortable to sit in and really quite stable once you get used to it. There's always going to be discomforts and difficulties. I can say that, the longer you work at it, and if you work at it regularly, it will get gradually easier and easier to find a posture that you can remain stable and comfortable and attentive, stable, relaxed, and attentive over time. And again, I really encourage you to experiment, talk to other meditation teachers. They may have some insights and so on. That's the arms and legs. I'm sorry, that's the feet and legs. The arms are resting in your lap or on your thighs, shoulders gently down and back. Again, it's a relaxed, resting posture with the arms and shoulders. The shoulders are relaxed. Arms may be akimbo, just like out a little bit. That's done to let air circulate to manage excess heat, which can sometimes cause drowsiness. Again, your hands can just be folded. They can be placed in what's called the mudra of concentration, like this. This is the typical one that we often encounter at the Buddhist Center. Or you can just rest your hands on your thighs. The spine is the most important. It should be upright, energized, yet relaxed. So you can imagine, to bring a visual image to this, to your spine, imagine the vertebrae as heavy gold coins, a stack one on top of the next in a natural curve. Just imagine that like heavy but bright gold, deep gold color as a way to bring sort of an energy to your spine. And the spine supports the rest of the body like a hanger supports a coat hanging loosely on it. So, as I mentioned, the shoulders are back and down, but in a relaxed way. It's really only the spine that provides the structure, the support for the rest of your body. There's a saying that when you meditate with an open front and a strong back. And that can be understood in many different levels. The eyes are closed or slightly open with a downward gaze. And in the beginning, it's often easier to concentrate with the eyes closed. The only, caution there is that if your eyes are closed, it could be easier to have sort of dullness and sinking and laxity and so on. As you become more relaxed and comfortable, you can keep the eyes slightly open, and which prevents drowsiness because the body associates closed eyes with nap time. So keeping the eyes slightly open avoids this. And the Buddhist perspective here is that slightly open eyes provide a connection to and a reminder of our activities off the meditation seat or cushion. The lips, jaw, teeth, and mouth. Well, the lips are just lightly touching. The jaw is relaxed. The teeth are almost, but not quite touching. And of course, the advanced instruction, there's a gentle smile on the face, as if you were actually enjoying this. The tongue is touching the upper palate behind the top front teeth. What this does is it reduces the flow of saliva and therefore swallowing, which can become a distraction as you begin to settle in deeper and deeper into a meditative state. And also the tongue pressing against the upper palate, just very gently, stimulates the brain slightly. I've heard a theory that it stimulates the pineal gland. I don't know, but I think it just helps with awareness. And then finally, the head is, well, it's inclined forward. The chin is gently pulled in. You want to avoid, and this can happen just over time in a session, kind of perching the head forward, which is kind of stressful on the neck and also can lead to excitement because of that posture. So the chin is gently pulled in. Those are the 7 points. There's an 8th point, of course, which is the breathing is through the nose. It's soft and quiet and natural. Now, before we go on, any questions or particular maybe obstacles when it comes to certain postures? If not, we'll go right to the meditation. So set yourself in that posture.
I have a question.
Yes, please go.
What happens when your foot or your leg falls asleep
Right.
and it's really like you've let it go and let it go, but you just really feel like you need to move it? Is it okay?
Yes, it's okay. This is my view. Different teachers will instruct differently. I feel that you will never have like zero discomfort. And it's actually an advantage to experience and become okay with and familiar with a little bit of discomfort, and then just keep working on that. Maybe some days more, some days less, but kind of continually pushing the envelope a little bit in order eventually to get more and more comfortable in the meditation posture and kind of explore where things, really are working for you or not working for you. When it comes to like your legs really falling asleep, like lack of circulation and so on, I would recommend you just like gently move around as minimally as possible to, allow the blood to flow again. And then just continue on. It's really hard to meditate when you're feeling a great deal of pain, especially, if you could just do something to address that pain. On the other hand, we recommend that you try and keep yourself as still as possible, because physical stillness will cue a mental stability. If you're fidgeting and moving around all the time, just almost, habitually or unconsciously, that's going to affect your mind state as well. So that's kind of how I think about it. What's your reaction, Rachel? Did that make sense to you? Or maybe there's more questions you have?
It does. It makes sense. And I try to be still as much as possible, like even if there's like, it's hard if there's like mosquitoes landing on you and things like that. I guess, I mean, I try to just go with it for as long as I can. I also suffer from a lot of back and neck pain, so um, I have not good bones. So sometimes I just really need to shift because the pain, and
Yeah,
I feel like I don't know if I'm, I want to do it as right as possible, so, and other people
yeah,
in meditation group, I don't want to disturb them or
yeah,
act inappropriately.
yeah. Those are all concerns.
Yeah.
You do want to, follow the essentials behind, the different instructions, meditation instructions, and you have to balance that with what works with you. Another thing to consider is if it's easier for you, Rachel, is you can always sit on a chair and maybe, try a different posture, like sitting on a chair for a week and see how that works for you. And then go back to the floor. I'm assuming that you're on the floor right now just from the video. And that's great. And just go back and forth. And remember, especially if you have like some kind of, illness or, some kind of physical difficulty, the only way you may be able to benefit to meditate under certain circumstances is lying down. So just keep an open mind there. Yeah. And then of course, on the other side, you don't want to, adopt any like really bad habits like, slouching over or, you know, fidgeting all the time or something like that. So that's a great question. And thank you for asking it, Rachel. Oh, and one more thing I would say is that, yeah, I found it incredibly helpful just to practice a little bit of yoga each week. Find yourself one of the extraordinary teachers who are available here in Santa Fe. And,
Yeah, I do yoga 5 times a week already. I'm in Albuquerque.
Okay.
I have a super instructor, so and it helps. It does help with all of my back strain, but sometimes I need to move for a second.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And when you do that, your next job after that, once you've relieved the physical discomfort, is to reestablish kind of that relaxed, stable, and attentive mental posture for meditation. That's all you got to remember. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, we'll go into the first meditation. And this one here really is related to what's called directed attention or attentional development. It's lots of words, but really all I'm talking about is just placing the attention on the breath, noticing when after a few seconds it wanders off, and then gently but firmly bringing the attention back. That's a rep. It's like doing a sun salutation or something. It's just a natural cycle that we all do. So just place yourself and refresh your meditation posture. If you do need to move around, you want to take a break, that's fine. Just remember, that great question that Rachel asked, just remember, my instructions there. So in directed attention or attentional development, it's actually the first of 9 stages leading to the achievement of a stabilizing meditation that is termed shamatha by this particular lineage. So the sign of having reached this stage is simply being able to place your mind on your chosen object of meditation for even a second or two. This is not a trivial goal. I mean, I can imagine that, people who might even, not even realize that they're able to place their attention where they wish and just think, well, my thoughts just come up and I just follow them wherever they go. Whatever comes up, wherever it goes, that's attention. Well, I think we'll find, or we've already found, that that's not necessarily the case. We choose a familiar meditation object, the breath, for many reasons. That makes it a lot easier. But if you're trying to direct your attention to a difficult object, such as a complex visualization, this may take days or weeks to accomplish. And maybe there's, maybe there's a physical analog to that as well. That is a complex visualization, a complex series of physical actions. Again, it may take days or weeks to accomplish, to be able to keep your attention on that. But this is all done through the power of mindfulness and familiarity. However, if our chosen object is our breathing, we should be able to achieve this fairly easily. I'll be interested to hear your feedback. So one of the first signs of progress, believe it or not, is simply noticing how chaotic our minds are. So we try to remain attentive, but we swiftly lose our minds and slip into absent-mindedness. Or we try and clamp down and grasp and cling to that meditation object and find it just like slips through our fingers. People who rarely sit quietly and try to focus their minds may remain under the illusion that their minds are calm and collected. But it's really only when we try to direct the attention to a single object, the breath, for seconds or even minutes on end, does it really become apparent how turbulent and fragmented our attention is. So from a Buddhist perspective, the untrained mind is afflicted with attention deficits and hyperactivity. It is dysfunctional. So our minds are bound up with our bodies. So we need to incorporate our bodies into meditative practice. In this session, we'll do this first by settling the body in its natural state while imbued with three qualities: relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. These three physical qualities are cues for the mental qualities of calmness, stability, and attentiveness. By establishing these three physical qualities, it makes it easier to establish or even just automatically generate the mental qualities of calmness, stability, and attentiveness. So if you're sitting, you may rest your hands on your knees or in your lap. Your head may be slightly inclined or directed straight ahead. And your tongue may lightly touch your palate. Now bring your awareness to the tactile sensations throughout your body. Sensations from the soles of your feet up to the crown of your head. Note the sensations in your shoulders and neck, and if you detect any tightness there, release it. Likewise, be aware of the muscles of your face, your jaws, temples, and forehead, as well as your eyes. And soften any area that feels constricted. If it helps, you can even imagine breathing into those areas, even if it's not physiologically possible. And imagine the breath as healing, calming light. Just let your face relax like that of a sleeping baby, and set your entire body at ease. as well as physically relaxing the body, scanning the body in this way creates a present awareness that helps calm the mind. Throughout this session, keep as physically still as you can and avoid unnecessary movement. You will find that the stillness of the body helps to settle the mind, making it calm, stable, and countering distraction. If you're sitting, assume a posture of vigilance. That is, just slightly raise your sternum, bringing your shoulders back and down, so that when you inhale, you feel the sensations of the respiration naturally go to your belly, which expands during the in-breath and retracts during the out-breath. This creates a sense of stability. In particular, focusing on the belly, the lower part of the body, creates that sense of stability. And maintaining a posture of vigilance also creates the mental posture of attentiveness, which counters distraction. We balance these two things together, stability and attentiveness, in a dynamic balance. Be at ease, be still, be vigilant. Take slow, gentle, deep breaths, breathing in and out through the nostrils. Let your awareness permeate your entire body as you do so. Noting any sensations that arise in relation to the respiration. Luxuriate in these breaths as if you were receiving a gentle massage. Now, settle your respiration in its natural flow. Continue breathing through your nostrils, noting the sensations of the respiration, wherever they arise within your body. Observe the entire course of each in and out breath, noting whether it is long or short, deep or shallow, slow or fast. Don't impose any rhythm on your breathing. Attend closely to the respiration, but without willfully influencing it in any way. Don't even prefer one kind of breath over another. And don't assume that rhythmic breathing is necessarily better than irregular breathing. Just let the body breathe as if you were fast asleep, but stay mindfully vigilant of the breath. Thoughts are bound to arise involuntarily, and your attention may be pulled away by noises and other stimuli from your environment, even bodily sensations, even internal sensations, distractions, thoughts, maybe boredom, maybe a concern with the future and making a list in order to tackle it. When you note that you have become distracted, instead of tightening up and forcing your attention back to the breath, simply let go of these thoughts and distractions. With each out breath, relax your body, release extraneous thoughts, and happily let your attention settle back into the body. When you see that your mind has wandered, don't get upset. Just be happy that you've noticed the distraction and gently return to the breath. Again and again, counteract the agitation and turbulence of the mind by relaxing more deeply, not by contracting your body or mind. If any tension builds up in your shoulders, face, or eyes, release it. With each exhalation, release involuntary thoughts as if they were dry leaves blown away by a soft breeze. Relax deeply through the entire course of the exhalation. And continue to relax as the next breath flows in smoothly, like the tide. Breathe so smoothly that you feel as if your body were being breathed by the air surrounding you. Well, that completes the meditation. I wonder if there were any questions that came up or any observations. Maybe something I said earlier, might have prompted a thought or some kind of response. Well, what about any particular obstacles or difficulties, maybe? Anyone want to share an observation? During that. So did anyone find that like really easy? Surprisingly easy, maybe less hard than you expected?
Stephen, I thought paying attention to the breath or just letting the breathing happen was pretty cool, but I did definitely have some physical, this just doesn't feel good. But the breathing I thought was really easy.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. When you say it just didn't feel good, like, did you kind of just feel like maybe uncomfortable or sort of, I don't know,
Yeah, it was
maybe
just like knees
imprisoned or,
hurt and hips hurt and things. So
yeah, yeah,
so I kept thinking, oh well, maybe I just need to get up and go sit on a chair or something. But then I immediately stopped thinking it and just and the breath part I thought was really easy.
yeah.
That was good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Um, yeah, that's kind of an interesting observation, isn't it? It's like when you place your attention somewhere, and our whole goal is to be able to place it where we want with mindfulness. But when you place your attention somewhere, everything else goes away. To a major extent. I mean, sometimes if you have like strong pain or something, it's going to reassert itself or maybe never leave. But that's interesting, isn't it? And I think, what I've found is that, yeah, yeah, it can vary day by day even. But gradually, as you become more familiar and you just sit and become habituated to that posture and whatever posture you prefer. And again, I would encourage try a chair, whatever posture you prefer. Um, it'll gradually get easier and easier. If you work at a desk, I mean, you spend hours working at a desk. And yet, when we get up after doing that, it's like, oh, the pain, oh, my back. But you weren't like aware of it. And also, you're used to being in that posture for a long time. So I hope that's kind of encouraging and helpful, Jean. That's a great comment, though. Thank you. Well, I think what we ought to do is have a 5-minute break and we'll go into a little bit of instruction about mindfulness, unless someone else wants to jump in. I don't know. Did you want to say something, Rachel?
I was gonna say that when like I really still like need to anchor it with a voice, whatever I'm saying. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, I'm breathing in, um, or something like a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, pause, 2, pause, or it's like I still like I feel like if I don't have like something to anchor, then
Sure.
I kind of go all over the place. And I don't know if that's a crutch.
Yeah, that's
It's
that.
okay to, I mean, if that's what it takes to focus on, cool air's coming in, warm air coming out, or whatever
Yeah,
it is, I'm breathing in light, I'm breathing out blah, uh,
yeah, yeah. That's actually a really great comment. It's interesting. Even the oldest instructions from the Buddha talk about that kind of internal monologue. We're saying, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Those are actually direct quotations from the Buddha.
so
From
it's
some.
okay.
So it's quite okay.
Oh,
So
good.
what we're going to do in the very next meditation is we're actually going to begin counting the breaths. So you can count the breaths, or you can just say, I'm breathing in, I'm having slow breaths, quick breaths, even breaths. You can even say that internally. What's a little bit strange about instructing meditation is here I am, like talking to you. And that can be at the beginning a great advantage because that will give you something to focus on, right? You just listen to my voice and my instructions that were actually provided by Alan Wallace. You can listen to that, but then at some point that has to be internalized. And then you go to kind of an internal monologue where, you're observing, you've got something to anchor to, you're counting the breaths. And then gradually, as you become more familiar, you become more comfortable, more relaxed and more calm, then you may find that you don't need to count the breaths. You can just anchor your attention to the sensation of the breath itself. This is a progression. And I mentioned the 9 stages of attentional development. I don't know this. I'm just going by what the great lamas and pandits and practitioners have said, but they say eventually you even abandon the anchor of the breath in the sense that the breath changes. It's no longer the physical sensation of the breath. It's kind of a mental image of the breath that you anchor to, that you put your attentional focus on. But this is very high level, and I've never been able, I don't think, to accomplish that. I'm still just, a regular person, just, working with, basic meditation techniques. But it's a progression that you continue working with, and whatever serves you at your particular, level, state, your situation, then you just go with that, knowing that you continue to develop along the path. Did that kind of answer your question, Rachel? Okay, thank you. We'll have just a quick 5-minute break so people can get up and move around and just be comfortable. So I'll just call you back here. I'll see if I can set up a timer on the screen, but don't worry about it. I'll come back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Any questions or comments come up at a moment to step away from the screen?
I'll just let you know, I've got nothing specific, but I am finding it helpful to hear this. It's like I've heard it before, but I find repetition for me is crucial. I'm not a one trial learner.
So Jay, I know that I can hear a particular instruction 100 times.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sink in.
Yeah.
Part of it is repetition, but also part of it is the work that you're doing, Jay. As you get more and more familiar with this topic, you've got more and more associations and, relationships and other pieces of information that you're putting together. So I think, you do sometimes have to hear it 100 times until the 101st time when you're actually ready to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a great question. I'm not looking at the other faces, but I think there might be like a glimmer of recognition somewhere. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some terms. And I'll just give quick glosses on them, just so that we're familiar with what we're talking about. So when we're even talking about the mind, what is that? And so here in this particular lineage, we're not talking about the brain or psychology. When we talk about the mind, what we mean is the mind that is our subjective consciousness. So it's very subjective, personal, experiential. That's why everything I say, and even if I don't say it that way, is really just kind of a suggestion for you to consider and apply in your own mind during your own meditation sessions. So our mind is our subjective consciousness that perceives moment by moment a meditation object, the breath, for example, perceives it as a whole. And the mental factors, so these are kind of the individual functions of the mind, simultaneously work with that meditation object, apprehending and engaging with particular aspects of that object in specific ways. It's very vague. Well, you come up with some examples for you. A mind and its mental factors arise simultaneously. They're not separable. In other words, they are of the same entity. Wow, that's a lot of words. But what it's saying basically is the mind is kind of the whole container of our experience. And the mental factors are like the particular aspects. I mean, we can, look at an object and say it has a certain form and a certain color. Its form, its shape is one aspect of that object, and its color is another aspect of that object. But you can't have red without a form for it to be on. And you can't have a form without any color. So in that sense, that is how the mind and the mental factors are inseparable, although we can observe those qualities. So in Buddhism, the mind is not conceived to be merely a general reservoir of information or just the brain mechanism, as I just said, but to be individual moments of subjective knowing, that is perception or experience. That continuum of which makes up our sense, our experience of knowing. So that's just a quick definition of how the mind is understood in Buddhism. A mental factor is a component of the mind, that is, an aspect, a character, a quality, or ability of the mind that apprehends or engages with the meditation object. For example, the mental factors that we'll talk about today: mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. There are many different lists and groupings of them, and the one commonly used in this particular lineage, used in this tradition, has 51 different ones divided into 5 groups. Don't worry, we won't be getting into all 51 mental factors, and there'll be no test. The ones we're interested in, though, are mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, which are called the object ascertaining mental factors. And all that means is they hold, focus on, and understand the individual features of the meditation object. So in the meditation that we just did, where we just put our attention on the breath and kept it there for a second, 2 seconds, a millisecond, a nanosecond, whatever, for the time we kept it there, that was mindfulness. Its presence being at the center, its presence, that is, of the breath, being at the center of our attention. So, mindfulness, it's simply a non-forgetfulness of the mind with respect to a familiar meditation object. And its function is just to keep us from becoming distracted. And we might, throughout this course, refer to it as remembering the meditation object. Just call it memory, or even non-distraction, attentiveness, whatever you wish. So that's the first of them. The second is concentration. And this, in a way, follows on from mindfulness. So concentration dwells single-pointedly on the meditation object in a sustained way. And then it has the function of supporting wisdom, the next mental factor to come. The more intense our concentration, the more acute our observation of the meditation object becomes. In a way, these are kind of artificial divisions of a very dynamic and natural continuum that's happening in our mind. But what's useful about dividing things this way is that we know we can experience ourselves, we can observe for ourselves that if we don't have mindfulness, that is, the ability to keep an object in our mind, there's no way we can concentrate on it. It just leaves before we even have a chance to inspect it and engage with it. And then once we have mindfulness, which is just the stability of the attention on the object, and then concentration, which profits from that, maybe it just evolves from that. It's really, you can observe yourself and decide what you think is the best way to express it. But mindfulness, we begin with that to have the stability of whatever we choose. And then we can develop concentration. I don't know if I can say when mindfulness turns into concentration, but we've all had that experience of concentration where now the object is like, it's there at the center of our attention. And it just kind of takes up our whole world. So we concentrate and we have that intense focus. And then by virtue of that, we develop wisdom. Wisdom sounds like, some amazing quality, and it is. But here we just mean something like synonyms like intelligence, comprehension, understanding, so that we stabilize on the object, we concentrate on it, focus on it, and then we can develop an experience and a memory of that experience of the object. So that is the sequence of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. In a way, they're kind of a continuum. But what's so critical here is that without mindfulness, we can't get very far. So what wisdom does is it discriminates, characterizes, and evaluates the features of a meditation object, illuminating it like a lamp lights up a picture in a dark room. And this is our goal, is to develop this discrimination, develop the ability to characterize, evaluate, and choose between different actions. Now, maybe an analogy might help. And so you can think of these three mental factors together, like a laser beam. So mindfulness is the steadiness that keeps the laser beam on the desired spot. Concentration, the second of those three mental factors, is the intensity and focus of the laser beam, the energy that's in those photons, the laser light itself that gives it power. And wisdom, the third of the mental factors, is the illumination of the target object, resulting in some effect. Just like a laser beam, these three factors are neutral. Neutral in a kind of, I guess, an ethical or moral or karmic sense. They're neutral and be used for good or for evil. So a laser beam, just like a laser beam, can be used for wholesome ends like laser eye surgery to correct defects in the eye. Or a laser can also be used for an unwholesome end. For example, to vaporize a meddlesome secret agent. So that's just an analogy that might be helpful. There's kind of a fourth quasi-mental factor. It's often categorized as a sort of wisdom, but it's called introspective awareness. And it's kind of reflexive in a way, and it's in a way there all the time, but we don't really pay attention to it. And that fourth one that I'm adding here, introspective awareness, is a mental factor that is aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it or should be doing it. Did that come up in our meditation? Well, possibly if we were meditating, we had our attention on the breath, but we could sense that our posture was maybe slumping or becoming less attentive, or our posture was becoming too tight, too strained, too attentive. And then we just almost naturally notice that, apply the antidote to that, adjust, and then go back to monitoring the breath. Even more germane, though, is the introspective awareness that realizes that we're not meditating on the breath. We're thinking about, I don't know, maybe a beach in Mexico, or an eclair or something like that. And that's where introspective awareness comes in, figures out that's happening, and then applies the antidote to bring the attention back. And it's sometimes the antidote is just simply, just gently but firmly placing the attention back onto the meditation object, the breath. So this additional one, this fourth one, introspective awareness, has different synonyms. Sometimes it's called bare awareness, can be called monitoring, vigilance. We've used that word before. Or like it's sometimes visualized as like a spy in the mind. And then I said, I've used the term a lot, meditation object, and this is just simply the one and only thing the mind is engaged with in the moment. It's not a physical object necessarily. It's kind of a mental object. In the context of meditation, we call it the meditation object, but our mind is always engaged with an object, however extended or briefly, intensely or diffusely, whether we're in meditation or going about our daily lives. I guess I can say that, we practice on the meditation cushion, but we put it into action off of the cushion. So all of these things are applicable off of the cushion as well. So I'll just stop there, and after those somewhat technical definitions, ask if there's any kind of questions or confusions, any maybe unclarity on my part. Let me put it this way. In kind of unbundling and unpacking the different qualities, that is, the mental factors of the mind, were any one of them particularly surprising to you, that I never thought of that, or how are they related, or why are they separated that way?
For me, Stephen, what would be helpful is, again, review is so important. Where would I go to find this written down?
Right.
Through that Wallace's. Okay. The mind and its functions.
Yeah, this is Geshe Rabtin's great book, translated by Stephen Batchelor.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you may have
Geshe
seen
Rabtin.
this. Yeah, Geshe Rabtin. It might be difficult to get a hold of, but you may be able to find it. There is this text that's available from FPMT with the rather concise title of A Necklace for Those of Clear Awareness, Clearly Revealing the Modes of Minds and Mental Factors.
Okay.
That's by Yeshe Gyaltsen, one of the great textbook writers of Tibet. This is from FPMT, so you could get that. And there will be many YouTube videos on the topic of minds and mental factors.
Okay.
So that's where you would go to drill deeper. I don't know if Alan Wallace really drills down that much into the Buddhist psychology and the model of the mind. So those would probably be the places that I can think of so far. I was just looking over my bookshelf that I could think of so far where you could get some great information.
So I've got a follow-up question,
Mm-hmm.
which would be, how have you found making those distinctions helpful? How is it applicable when you go to meditate, for instance?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I love to, you know, and in fact, the Minds and Mental Factors course, I've actually taken 3 times. First time I understood almost nothing. The second time I understood a little bit more. And then the third time, even a little bit more than that. And I really find it, I like to have like models or kind of maquettes of what's going on. The danger, and I think I said this a bit earlier, is to be like too reductive, but to kind of know what the components are and what you're trying to develop and have like a vocabulary to talk about it is, I found, incredibly helpful. And that actually, of the basic program courses that you can take through FPMT, is probably still my favorite, just because it's so illuminating. And although they discuss all of this in terms of the Buddhist soteriological program, that is to become enlightened, it's still incredibly useful and applicable, I think, whether you're a Buddhist or not, just to be able to think, oh yeah, the first thing one of the most important things, and maybe one of the first things I want to do, is kind of develop mindfulness, just so I can focus on whatever it is I want to develop. Doesn't matter. And we know we can understand and feel and experience ourselves the detrimental effects of lack of attention, of distraction, of being diverted from what we know is good for us, and being captured by, just like those ephemeral things that just come into our lives and demand our attention from second to second to second. I don't know. Did that help, Jay?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And the mind and mental factors is what that's part of FPMT, because somehow I may have missed it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
and
I'll,
that's this
I'll,
is
I'll see what I can find.
this little course is just kind of my like amateurish attempt at, sort of creating a gateway into study of minds and mental factors, which is,
Okay,
incredible.
great. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Well, that's great. It can be, and I'm not sure, for example, let's say mindfulness. Yeah. Okay. Mindfulness, easy to understand because it's like binary, right? Is our mind on the object we chose or not? But then there's kind of a progression, an evolution from mindfulness into concentration, which talks about the level of engagement with the meditation object.
Stephen,
Yes.
were you trying to, in the language that you used to guide us through that initial meditation, were you actually kind of using all three of the mental faculties and just sort of guiding us along to the, I forget already, I've forgotten what the three mental faculties were.
Busted.
Okay,
Like that's handcuffs, right?
I saw it. I could tell.
That's a great question. Yeah, and it's like when you listen to Buddhist, not that you have to, when you listen to Buddhist instruction, this is like baked in. It's just like everywhere. If you don't, you can still profit by, listening to the instruction, but so much of the framework comes from this Buddhist psychological understanding. So I don't think it's been, developed and refined by Buddhists, but I think it's existed for thousands of years before that. There may be different viewpoints and different interpretations. Of course, there will be. And even within Buddhism, there's different viewpoints and different interpretations, but it's been around for quite a bit. And yeah, so we talked about that. Mindfulness is the first step, because without mindfulness, we can't get to concentration. And then gradually, will begin to concentrate, engage with the object. That's kind of really I guess the litmus test is like the vibrancy or the engagement is what concentration is. That's kind of my interpretation. And it's a continuum from mindfulness. And then once we have mindfulness, which is the foundation, we can develop concentration. And then when we have that, whatever we're looking at, we begin to have like a deeper understanding of what it is. It may be just a direct perception, just a knowing, a perception of it. It doesn't have to be analytical. You don't have to like discriminate or take it apart, break it down into its components. It can just kind of be like a whole body. I don't know if that's the right term, but kind of a gestalt, you know, just a full appreciation of whatever it is, whether it's a physical activity, whether it's a sensation or body, an emotion, an idea, an understanding, whatever. And all of that is in there. And I kind of, yeah, it's there. Stuff happens so fast in the mind, and even more nowadays with all the stimulus that we have, that it's easy to miss. And there's different ways, of course, of approaching this, but I can definitely find it if I can take the time and just calm a little bit. I can find it in like any daily activity or, task. So yeah, mindfulness, concentration, and then wisdom, where there's just realization. Mindfulness, Gene, concentration, wisdom. But you experience that. You can see that in your mind. You don't even have to be on the meditation cushion. You could be on a yoga mat. You could be driving your car. I do recommend, though, if you drive your car, do not close your eyes to develop stability. Well, okay, so we've come to pretty much the end, but I thought I would offer this if you want to go, if you need to go. It's already a lot of me talking. If you want to go, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll do this second meditation, which involves counting the breath. And again, these meditations come from Dr. Alan Wallace's Attention Revolution, Unlocking the Power of the Focused Mind. I can always email or contact you some way with the reference here. What this book has are the meditations. It has kind of the classical from Kamala Shila, hundreds of years ago, the classical 9-stage division of attentional development. So in a way, it's very secular, but it's founded in all of those traditional teachings. So that's another book. All right, let's all stop talking. Well, I'll switch to our second meditation. And again, if you want or need to go, thank you so much for attending. And then we'll just drop right into another meditation for those of you who wish to stay. So again, reestablish your meditation posture. And we're really going to focus on 3 physical qualities because they cue 3 very important mental qualities. The physical qualities are relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. Just begin this meditation by settling your body in its rest state, imbued with the 3 physical qualities of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. The way we promote relaxation in our body is to bring our awareness to the tactile sensations throughout our bodies. So bring your awareness from the soles of your feet up to the crown of your head. Note the sensations in your shoulders and neck, and if you detect any tightness there, just release it. Likewise, be aware of the muscles of your face, your jaws, temples, and forehead, as well as your eyes. And soften any area that feels constricted. Let your face relax like that of a sleeping baby, and set your entire body at ease. Here, our only goal is just to relax. We do that by noticing the sensations in our body, which brings a very powerful present awareness and takes us away from memories of the past or planning of the future. Then we bring stillness to the body. This is much easier now that we've relaxed. We just try and keep as physically still as we can. Although if you feel you need to move, go ahead and do so. You'll find that this stillness of the body also helps to settle the mind. And then vigilance. Physically, we assume a posture of vigilance where we slightly raise our sternum so that when you inhale, you feel the sensations of the respiration naturally go to your belly, which expands during the in-breath and retracts during the out-breath. Placing the attention on the respiration at the belly is very stabilizing. And so forms a dynamic counterbalance with vigilance to prevent too much excitement and distraction. So these three physical qualities, relaxation, stillness, and vigilance, these physical qualities are cues for the mental qualities of calmness, stability, and attentiveness. Out of sheer habit, unintentional thoughts are bound to cascade through your mind like a waterfall. One way of stemming this relentless stream of ideation is to count the breaths. Try that now by counting 1 at the beginning of your first inhalation, then attending closely to the sensations of the respiration throughout the rest of the inhalation and the entire exhalation. Count 2 at the beginning of the next breath and continue in this way for as long as you find it helpful. And this is an important part of the instruction. Let these mental counts be brief so that your attention to the counting doesn't override your awareness of the breath itself. The objective of counting the breath is to insert brief reminders into the practice, remembering to remember, so that you don't get carried away by distracting thoughts. Attending to these mental markers at regular intervals in the course of the respiration is like taking note of milestones on the side of a country road, letting you know by their presence that you are on the right track, or by their absence that you have wandered off your chosen route. This phase of the practice is primarily concerned with mindfulness of breathing, not counting. It's easy to maintain just enough continuity of attention to keep track of counting, while between the counts, the mind wanders off on its own, like a dog without a leash. Let the counting instead remind you to keep your attention focused on the tactile sensations of the breath, which change from moment to moment. After counting the breath at the beginning of the inhalation, let your mind be as conceptually silent as possible for the remainder of the in-breath. And during the out-breath, release any involuntary thoughts that have cropped up. As mentioned before, arouse your attention, countering laxity or dullness during the in-breath, and relax your attention, countering excitation or distraction with each out-breath. But don't relax so much that you become spaced out or dull. In this way, with each complete breath, you remedy the two major defects of attention: laxity and excitation. Meditation is a balancing act between attention and relaxation. Mastering this requires working to counter the natural reflex of trying harder or clamping down when you see that your mind has become distracted. Instead, soon as you see that your mind has wandered, release the effort of clinging to the distracting thought or physical sensation. Return to the breath and relax more deeply. Remember that the main point of such attentional training is not to stop thoughts from arising. Remember that the main point of such attentional training is not to stop thoughts from arising. Rather, it is first to relax the body and mind, and then to cultivate the stability of sustaining attention continuously, even for a few seconds, upon your chosen object. All right, the meditation is done. So we'll finish up with a quick dedication. And before we do, I just want to thank all of you so much for taking your valuable time to come by and sit in on this little class. It was a pleasure to, interact with you guys and discuss these things. I learn as much as anyone does during these classes. So thank you for coming by and commenting and asking questions and so on. So now we'll just have a quick dedication. And this is where we appreciate and rejoice in our work during the session. So we fix our feelings of joy and accomplishment. And really, you guys have done a lot of work tonight. You've listened to all of these incredibly interesting teachings. You've done your best to practice and learn about meditation. You've asked questions and, in pursuit of pursuing your meditation practice and yourself. So that's really an extraordinary accomplishment. And it's an actual substance, at least in the Buddhist view. So we take this incredible accomplishment and rejoice in our work. So we fix the feelings of joy and accomplishment in our memory and just kind of luxuriate in them. There's not any remembering of the teachings or analyzing or anything like that. We just feel that joy and we just fix it in our memory. Why? So hopefully that we're motivated to return to the meditation seat again. It's kind of like the deep psychological wisdom of performing a dedication. And in the Buddhist view, the positive energy of this meditation is directed and sealed so that it ripens into a beneficial outcome for ourselves and others. And we could just think of this in a non-Buddhist perspective, where we just rejoice in the positive energy and insights we've created by meditating and dedicate them to the well-being and happiness of yourselves and all others. We'll do this with a more traditional Buddhist dedication. And just, even if you're not a Buddhist, just maybe use this as a mental exercise, just a mind expanding exercise. As we dedicate the substance of tonight's practice with this verse from Shantideva, The Way of the Bodhisattva, 10th chapter, the dedication chapter. For as long as space endures, and for as long as living beings remain, until then, may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. Thank you, everyone.